Hey, I'm Stephanie, and welcome to Books and Bubbly. This is the playlist where I drink some bubbly while talking about books that I get all bubbly about. And today I am so excited to be talking about the much hyped Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. Now, warning, there will be spoilers in this review. If you want my spoiler-free version of this review, please check out my What I Read in June video, as I will not be giving anything away. So I will be giving things away in this video. So let's go ahead and see what this book promised. What if you thought you murdered your best friend? And if everyone else thought so too? And what if the truth doesn't matter? Lucy and Savvy were the golden girls of their small Texas town. Pretty, smart, and enviable. Lucy married a dream guy with a big ring and an even bigger home. Savvy was the social butterfly loved by all, and, if you believe the rumors, especially popular with the men in town. But after Lucy is found wandering the streets covered in her best friend Savvy's blood, everyone thinks she is a murderer. It's been years since that horrible night, a night Lucy can't remember anything about, and she has since moved to LA and started a new life. But now, the phenomenally huge hit true crime podcast, Listen for the Lie, and its too good-looking host, Ben Owens, have decided to investigate Savvy's murder for the show's second season. Lucy is forced to return to the place she vowed to never set foot in again, to solve her friend's murder, even if she is the one who did it. The truth is out there, if we just listen. So I've learned to be a bit cautious when I see certain titles popping up all over social media and people absolutely raving about it even though they totally didn't get compensated for it. Or admit that they were compensated for it, so I can't truly trust their opinion because everything that they get for free is just the most amazing thing ever. But I felt like this totally lived up to the hype. This was fantastic. I mean, within the first few pages, I was laughing because Lucy isn't just like sarcastic and hilarious. She is downright caustic and scathing with her little comebacks and witty retorts. I loved her. I want to be her, minus being considered a murder suspect. I don't want that part. But Lucy is snarky, and a lot of it seems to stem from self-preservation and protecting herself. Like, I was dying at some of her internal monologue about her boyfriend at the beginning, like just how far he'll go to avoid conflict, that he's just going to end up married to her. I just was not expecting this to be as funny as it was. And this was so funny, especially if you love dry, sarcastic humor. Lucy also does come across as a little unhinged and quite detached because she has spent most of her adult life wondering if she is a murderer. It comes off that she kind of enjoys making other people feel uncomfortable. She enjoys like watching them squirm and try to figure her out, as she herself can't figure herself out. She also does have a lot of disruptive thoughts about killing people around her, imagining it, and even hears a voice saying, "We should kill, let's kill." Now I will say, after a while, this did get a little annoying, but it also does come back into play and it makes sense. And I do think it was a good portrayal of intrusive thoughts. So we do find out that those intrusive thoughts are actually coming from Savvy's voice. So as she goes back home, the voice gets more loud, and she even starts seeing visions of Savvy from the night that she died. She follows Lucy around and interrupts Lucy's thoughts with ones of killing people and imagining it completely. Smash their head in, beat them with a bat, run them over with your car. This only makes Lucy think that she's actually guilty of the crime of Savvy's death. And I will admit, for a while, I did start to wonder if it would be a, oh shit, she really did kill her best friend kind of story. So we know that Lucy loved Savvy. But she's also very realistic about who Savvy was when she was alive. Because while everyone is talking to Ben and being recorded for his podcast, they're presenting Savvy as like this sweet, perfect baby angel. But Lucy remembers the real Savvy, the actual Savvy, not this exaggerated picture-perfect version. But at the same time, how can she tell people about Savvy's not so great traits without it coming off like she is the killer or show some sort of motivation for wanting Savvy dead? She can't, because the town she comes from is so small and honestly somewhat incestuous. Everyone is up in everyone's business, and I do mean that as a euphemism. Let's just say that I hope local events are sponsored by Trojan. So our girl Lucy has some problems because of her past, but is also trying to move on and live her life. She can't remember there's nothing else she can do. And with Ben investigating the case, she figures it's time to confront the past and maybe even herself. So she does go home for the podcast, but also for her grandmother's birthday. And really, her grandma is the only likable person in her family. Beverly is so funny, and I just loved her relationship with Lucy. She keeps her pretty grounded. I want Beverly to adopt me and be my grandma. Hell, I'll adopt her and take care of her in her advanced years. I really don't care. Lucy's dad barely interacts with her or seems to only tolerate her, and her mom also kind of seems to enjoy Lucy's notoriety, even if it's something unpleasant. Like, one parent wishes they could hide her away or remove her from the family tree, and the other can't shine a spotlight on her fast enough. I can totally understand why Lucy would say, like, see ya, and get the hell out of town. So the story alternates between Lucy's point of view and snippets of the podcast. I did like the mixed media format, and I do think it worked pretty well here. We learn certain things at the same time that Lucy is learning them without doing like a big info dump scene or the contrived conversations that start with, well, as you know. No, I don't, but I understand you're a character in a book who has to exposit right now. That said, I do think there is a slight problem with this formatting. Or it's not exactly the formatting, maybe it's more like the characterization based on the formatting. So Lucy is divorced, and I wouldn't say that she and her ex Matt ended on great terms, but they do seem friendly enough and can tolerate being in each other's presence. And Lucy even contemplates hooking up with him, as that's what they do every time they're around each other, even though they both know they're bad together. I can buy that. Some people don't know when to say no. But we find out that they didn't just have like irreconcilable differences. No, there was some DV involved. I couldn't wrap my head around that reveal, and especially how Lucy behaved toward her ex before we get the reveal. Like, ma'am, he hurt you. You are strong and actually wonder if you are capable of murdering someone that you love, and yet you consider spending another night with this guy? To me, it just didn't feel like it fit with the Lucy that we've been with for the first 70% of the book. I could have bought it more if it was just some kind of like power play on her part, like she was leading him on and doing this just so she could be the one to hurt him back, but that's not really it. Now, I will say, again, this is just my take on it. I have seen other reviews that say this is a pretty good description of victims of toxic relationships. Everyone handles trauma differently. I am definitely projecting my own experiences onto Lucy and her characterization. After I got out of a toxic relationship, I never gave him the time of day and would have had no problem standing up for myself and telling him exactly what I think of him. I would rather set myself on fire than think about being with him romantically ever again. And given Lucy's dark humor, her snark, her dry wit, I just expected her to act the same. So take my review of her handling her past with Matt with a grain of salt, because we all go through things differently. Again, just given how combative she had seemed up until this point, it just didn't really ring true that she would be running back to hook up with him. Especially since he's now going through his second divorce. So luckily, she does not go back to him, but she does end up hooking up with Ben, the podcaster, who's trying to expose Savvy's killer, which could be her. I love your choices, Lucy. You're so smart. You're so good. Now, I did like Ben, but I was not expecting the amount of spicy scenes we got in this. Kind of like the comedy. The spicy scenes were fine. It was just a surprise. Again, hopefully this town has great sex ed, as everyone is doing it and having affairs while they're at it. I can understand her hooking up with Ben, at least from her side. From his? Come on, Ben, you're supposed to be a professional. At least wait until you're done recording before sleeping with the alleged killer. But the mystery in this is so good. And I loved that it's not just an unreliable narrator like tee-hee-heeing her way and keeping secrets from us. Lucy has a traumatic brain injury and cannot remember what happened that night. And everyone is so quick to believe she is capable of cold-blooded murder of her best friend. Even she is questioning herself. I just thought it was a really good look at how we'll avoid looking for answers, because in some ways we're probably too scared to get them sometimes. So the unraveling of what happened that night and who might not be completely honest about their accounts was fantastic. My suspicions kept bouncing between different characters as we learn more about them in the podcast excerpts. Now, I will say I wasn't totally surprised by the identity of the real killer, as I had figured it out before the reveal, and during the reveal it did slip a little bit into incel territory and got a wee bit over the top in the "we're meant to be together. I have always loved you. I've just been waiting for you to realize you love me too, even though you've told me you don't and make it clear by moving thousands of miles away from me and you're never speaking to me again. I know deep down you really love me." But the reveal of what really happened that night was good, and also tragic. Obviously we know Savvy dies. That was already given away. But Savvy died trying to save Lucy. This book is definitely not black and white. Savvy dies and it is awful. But at the same time, she was also trying to convince Lucy that they should kill Matt, Lucy's, at the time, husband, together. Hence why Lucy is always hearing, "Let's kill." To me, though, that makes it great writing. Savvy isn't this infallible person that the townspeople are trying to make her out to be. But it's also horrible that she lost her own life. She shouldn't have. But again, she is not this person that everyone is making her out to be. She was definitely flawed and had shades of gray. So Lucy does begin to start remembering that night and realizes that she was making out with her friend Emmett, which is real unfortunate because if I ever have a son, that will be his name. And Savvy intervenes to get her away from him because she's already slept with him. She thinks he's kind of a creep. Like, he is very into Lucy even though she's married and doesn't really have any interest with him. So he was really upset because he was going to live out his fantasy of finally being with Lucy. And when Savvy gets them away, he comes and hunts them down and ends up killing Savvy and hurting Lucy and giving her her brain injury. Like I said, I did figure it out before the reveal, but mostly because the motivation just jumped out at me. His unrequited love just oozed off the pages in his scenes, and he is written as this shy, quiet artist who's kind of just too good to be true, so he isn't good. I'm not mad about the reveal at all, but I think I would have liked more clues beyond his "I have loved you since the dawn of time. Return my desire or I will snap and end you." But even with the reveal being what it was, which again, I think that's probably the lowest point of this book, I still ended up giving this 5 stars. I had a grand old time with this book, and it is a book that I really wish I could read again for the first time. I thought it was so addictive, compulsive, and clever, and again, just funnier than I expected a thriller to be. I am so excited to see what Tintera comes out with next in her lineup of adult fiction, and if we'll get another dark humor queen / hot mess like Lucy as our lead. So if you have any recs for other funny psychological thrillers that I should check out, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining me for Books and Bubbly.